Hello friends, today we are going to start the first chapter of geography, resources and development. This is the first part, and before we begin, let's have a look over the subtopics which will be covered in today's lecture. The topics are: what is resource, classification of resources, types of resources, development of resources, sustainable development, Rio or Summit 1992, Agenda 21, resource planning, land resources, land use pattern in India, causes of land degradation, and in the last, land conservation measures. So let's begin. So the first topic is what is resource. So everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, means anything which is available in our environment, and if it satisfied our needs, okay, so we can say that that is the resource. But before we say anything resource, there are three conditions which should be fulfilled. The first is it should be technologically accessible, means we should have a appropriate technology through which we can get the things and make it a resource so that we can use it. For example, here on the earth we are facing water scarcity. Suppose if scientists find out that there are plenty of water on some other planet, okay, so water is available there on some other planet, and here we are facing water scarcity on the earth, but we do not have the appropriate technology to bring that water from other planet to the earth. It means the water which is available on the other some different planets, that is not a resource for us. Water is a resource for us, but that water of that other planet, that is not a resource for us. Why? Because that water is not technologically accessible for us, right? So this is the first condition. Second is it should be economically feasible. uh, let's understand this by one example. See, food is a resource for us, okay. Suppose if I belong to a family where monthly income is 2000 rupees, right, and if I want to have my lunch in a very big hotel, 5-star hotel, where taking lunch cost 3000 rupees, so can I say that food of that particular restaurant is a resource for me? No. Why? Because it costs more than of the my family income, okay. So that's why the food of that particular hotel is not a resource for me, right? So this means this is the second condition, that everything which I want to use or which I want to satisfy my need should be economically feasible. Third is it should be culturally acceptable. Take an example. Suppose there is a proposal to build a school nearby your house, right? And bricks are needed to build the building, right? So near to your house itself, there is a religious monument, religious building, okay, and the builder who is going to build the school building, okay, he proposes that why should not we demolish this religious building and we can use the bricks of this religious building to build to make our school building. So what do you think, is it possible to demolish a religious building and then making a school building in our society or in our culture? No, surely our culture will not allow to do so. Means the that bricks which is used in which have been used in the religious monument, that brick is not a resource for us, okay. So that is not a resource for us because it is not culturally acceptable. Culture will not accept it, okay, right? So that brick is not a resource for us, right? So these are the three conditions. I hope you understood it well. Technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable. If three conditions are fulfilled, then anything which satisfy our needs is a resource. So come to the next topic. This is a graph which is given in your textbook. So here you see, in the center human being is there, one side technology, then nature or physical environment, and institutions. What is the correlation between these three? Let's try to understand. See, what does human being do? Human being uses the technology and interacts with the nature. With the help of technology, we interact with the nature, our physical surrounding, and then we take the resources and build our institutions for the economic development of the nation. Let's have an example. Just understand it like this. Again, I will take the same example. building a school. Okay, school is an institution, right? So we take the help of technology, we interact with the nature, we take the soil from this nature, okay, and then we make the bricks with the help of technology, and then we make the institutions, right? So this is one cycle, okay. With the help of technology, we are interacting with the nature, and then from the nature we are taking the resources and we are making the institutions, and then this all institutions help us to create some more technology, right? So this is a cycle which goes round and round, right? So this is the meaning of this diagram which is given in your textbook. Next is the classification of resources. Basically, we can classify the resources into two: natural resources, human resources. We will see one by one. Natural resources can be further divided into renewable resources, non-renewable resources. Renewable means the resources which can be renewed again, reused again. Non-renewable which cannot be reused again, right? Or which cannot be renewed again. Renewable resources can be classified into continuous or flow resources or biological resources. Continuous or flow means the resources, means the renewable resources which we receive continuously, right? For example, wind resource, okay, wind energy is a resource, right? Solar energy is a resource, and we do not have to bother about that whether the sun will rise tomorrow or not, whether we will receive the sunrise in future or not. We will receive it. Wind will blow continuously, means every time, okay. It will blow tomorrow also, it will blow after a year, after decades, after century also, okay. So it will blow continuously. So that's why it is called continuous resource or flow resource, right? Second is biological, means all the renewable resources which uh, comes through a biological process. For example, natural vegetation and wildlife means forest and wildlife areas, wildlife or means animals, right? So forest, tree, okay, these all, and wildlife means animals comes through a biological process. So that's why these are also renewable resources, but in the category of biological resources. Now you see non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources can be further classified into two: recyclable and non-recyclable. Just you take an example, like metal. Okay, suppose you take iron. Okay, iron. See, we make a iron gate. Okay. After sometimes we feel that this gate is not of no use. Okay. So what we can do, we can melt the iron of this gate. Okay, and we can make another thing which is supposed to be used in the future, right? You can take one more example. You might have seen in your family that someone has a gold ring, okay, and that person does not want to wear this gold ring, and instead of that, that person wants to wear a gold chain, okay. So what we do, we can give the gold ring to the goldsmith, and he can melt it, and again he can convert it into gold chain by adding some more gold, okay. So this is called recyclable, non-renewable. Gold is non-renewable, but it can be recycled. It can be recycled in another form, right? Second is non-recyclable, like fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, these all. Now the next category is of human resources. Human resources can be classified into two: structures and institutions, and quality and quantity. All the structures, all the buildings which have been made by the human being. For example, your school, your colleges, universities, factories, science lab, all everything, every buildings you see in the world are made by the human being, and this comes under the category of structures and institutions. Second is quantity and quality. Quantity and quality means the number and quality of the population. For example, we say that in India we are more than 120 crores. Okay, means population of India is more than 120 crores. So the number is quantity, and quality means whether the people are educated or not, whether they are having some skills or not, okay, whether they are physically fit or not. So these how is the health condition of the people. So these all are the qualities of the people, right? So first is quantity, means number of the people, and quality means what quality do they have. So these are the two categories of human resources. I hope you understood it well. So come to the next. Next is the type of resources. So we have many types of resources on the basis of various things. Okay, like example, on the basis of origin, we have divided the resources into two types: biotic resources, abiotic resources. On the basis of exhaustibility, renewable resource, non-renewable resource. On the basis of ownership, individual resource, community resource, national resource, international resource. On the basis of status of development, potential resource, developed resource, stock and reserves. So let's discuss one by one. First is on the basis of origin. On the basis of origin, the first category is of the biotic resource. So every resource which have life and which we get from the biosphere. Okay, so that is called biotic resource. For example, human beings. Okay, we have life, we are living in the biosphere, right? So we are a biotic resource. Flora and fauna, like means vegetation and animals, fisheries, livestock. So these all are the examples of biotic resources. You see, human being, fauna, flora and livestock. Next is abiotic resource. All the non-living components of the biosphere. Okay, all the non-living components. These all are the example of abiotic resource. Example, rocks, metals. These all are the abiotic resources because it does not have the life, right? So these two are examples of abiotic resource. Next is on the basis of exhaustibility. On the basis of exhaustibility, first category is of renewable resources. I told you renewable is made up of three words: re, new, able. Okay, you know the meaning of able, new and re, which have the potential to get renewed again. Okay, so that resources will be called renewable resources. And how it will be renewed again? It can be renewed by physical process, chemical process or mechanical process. Okay, so renewed or reproduced. Okay, solar energy, wind energy, water, forest, wildlife, these all are the examples of renewable resources. In this, earlier I told you that renewable resources can be classified into two. Which two? Continuous resources and biological resources. So solar will come under which category? Solar will come under continuous resources. Wind will come under continuous resources. Water, continuous resources. Forest, biological resources. Wildlife, biological resources, right? See, solar energy, wind energy, forest and wildlife. Next is non-renewable resources. So all the resources which takes almost millions of years, okay, to for the formation, okay, that will come under the non-renewable resources. Examples: minerals, fossil fuels. Okay, we can make the minerals, we can make the coal, we can make the iron, but we cannot do it overnight. We cannot do it within few years or decades. Okay, it will take millions of years, lakhs of years. So that's why it is called non-renewable resources. Okay, like petroleum, coal, I told you. Next is on the basis of ownership. On the basis of ownership, the first category is of individual resource. Individual resource means like all the resources which are owned by some individual or some family. Okay, so that will be called individual resource, like land, okay, houses, plantation, ponds, or anything like your pen, your textbook, your book, your chair, your table, your mobile phone, your laptop, everything. These all are the individual resources. Community cannot claim that I also want to use your laptop for all the time. Okay, because that is your own resource. You can allow them to do so, but they cannot claim to get it. Okay, so these all are the example of individual resources. Next is community owned resources, means the resources which are owned by the community, means group of families or group of people. Okay, so that is community resources. Example, village pond. If you are living in the rural area, you may be knowing that in many villages there are some ponds. Okay, where from that pond people can take the water. Everyone from living in that village can use the water. So that is the example of community owned resources. Like that, public parks. Okay, in many town areas or village area or in the cities, public parks are there. So everyone living in that area can use the public parks. They can play there, they can go there. Okay, no one can claim that only my children will play in this public parks. Okay, So like that, picnic spots, playgrounds, these all are the example of community owned resources. Next is national resources. See, technically all the resources are national resources because every resource belong to the nation. How? See, like example, we are living in this country, okay, human being. Like that, wildlife, animals are also national resource. We are also national resource. Our everything, our house, our pond, our field, everything comes under the national resource. Everything which is in the boundary of the nation, that is the national resource, okay, and nation can use for its development. But the technical thing comes when we talk about the water, sea waters, okay. See, India have a coast area, okay. So what happens, this in this coast area, up to 12 nautical mile, how much? Up to 12 nautical mile. 12 nautical mile means almost 22.2 kilometer of area, okay. So in the oceanic area, up to 12 nautical mile from the boundary, okay, up to 12 nautical mile from the boundary, anything which comes under this area, okay, anything which comes under this area will be the national resource, okay. So anything come under this area will be resource for our country, okay. So I hope it is clear. Next is international resources. International resource means anything which is beyond, which is found beyond 200 nautical miles of EEZ is termed as international resource, okay. And no individual country can utilize the resources without the permission of international institutions. Let's understand this by diagram. See, this is the land, means this is the area of a country. So from the land, okay, up to 12 nautical mile, this area is called territorial sea, okay. And this anything under this boundary comes under the national resources. From this area up to 200 nautical mile, this area is called EEZ, exclusive economic zone, okay. And beyond this 200 nautical mile area, up to the next extent, okay, comes under the high sea, and any country cannot claim, no single country can claim over the resources which are found in the high sea area, means beyond the 200 nautical miles of the boundary of any country, okay. So no country can claim. Who will decide then who will decide that who is going to use the resources found in this high sea? It will be decided by some international institutions. Like one institution is UNCLOS, UNCLOS, okay, United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, okay, UNCLOS, UNCLOS. So UNCLOS will decide that who is going to use the resource in the which are found in the high sea, right? So I hope it is clear for you. Next is on the basis of status of development. On the basis of status of development, the first category is potential resource. By the name itself it is clear, potential resource. Like say no, that yes you have the potential, you can do this, right? So like that for the resources also, potential resources are that resources which have the potential but we are not utilizing it, or we have not utilized. There is no reason behind it. We have not utilized it, okay. We can utilize but we are not utilizing it. Like example, wind and solar energy in Western India. You know, in the states of Gujarat and Rajasthan, these two states are very good for the solar energy and wind energy, but we have not established as much edge plant as we can for the generation of for the power generation, okay. So potential is there but we are not utilizing it. So that is the example of potential resources, right? Next is developed resources. Developed resources means all the resources which are surveyed and we know the quality and quantity of that particular resource, it will come under the developed resource, right? And we are determined for utilization, but we have started using it, or we have finally plan to use it, okay. So that these are called the developed resources. Next is stock. Stock means there are some potential resources, okay. There are some resources which have the potential to satisfy our needs, but the problem is we do not have the appropriate technology. Do you understand the difference between these two, stock and potential? In the potential resources, earlier I discussed this one, this potential resources, this is potential resource. Why? Because we have the technology but we are not using it. No reason, okay. There is no reason why we are not using it, we are just not using it, okay. But in the stock, it has the potential, but we do not have that appropriate technology. That's why we are not using it. Okay. uh, just you take an example, like one example is given in your textbook itself, that water, what is water? Water is H2O, right? So it is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, but and these two gases, okay, hydrogen and oxygen, these two are very rich, okay, very rich source of energy. These two gases are very rich source of energy. If we had uh, enough technology to separate these two, hydrogen and oxygen, from the water, okay, so we could have been using this as the source of energy, but we do not have the technology, we do not how to do this. Okay. Okay. Know how, these technical things we do not have. That's why this is just a stock for us. Whenever we will have the appropriate technology, we can use to separate the hydrogen and oxygen from the water. Okay. And we will start using it. The moment we will start using it, then it will become the either potential resource, okay, or it will become a developed resource, right? Next is reserves. What is reserve? Reserve is just a subset of stock. In the stock, we had the resources which had the potential to satisfy our needs, but we did not have the appropriate technology. In the reserves, we have the appropriate technology. Means, right? We have the appropriate technology. That thing has the potential to satisfy our needs. Means that is a resource for us. Okay. But the problem is we are not using it. Why we are not using it? Because we want to save it for the future requirements. Understand it by an example. River water. Okay. We can make dams over the river water to generate the hydroelectricity. Okay. But at present we are not making many dams. Why? Because many regions are there. Most probable, most possible reason is that we do not want to destruct the natural flow of river. Okay. We want to save it for the future requirements. So this is just a reserve. We can make the dams, but we are not making. Why? Because there is the need of the future requirements. Okay. So that's why this is called reserves. It is reserved for the future. Next is development of resources. See what happens that since few last decades or centuries, people believed that resources are free gifts of nature. Free gifts of nature means we have got these all the resources as the gift of the nature, and we started using it like the gift. Okay. And this created problem. What problem? We started using it indiscriminately, excessive use. We thought this is the gift, and um, once we will finish this all gift, nature will again give us some, give us some gift. Okay. So we thought it like that this is gift, and after finishing we will get another gift. Okay. But the nature is not like that, resources are not like that. Once you will use all the petroleums, you are not going to get the petroleum in few decades or few centuries. Okay. It will take millions of years again to form this all resources. So we started using it like the gift of the nature, and this indiscriminate use, this excessive use of the resources led to many problems. What problems? The first is the depletion. Okay. Exhaustion of the resources just to satisfy the need of some few, sorry, greed of some few individuals. Some few peoples are there in our society or world who are greedy, those who are very much eager to use all the resources in their lifetime itself. Okay. So this led to the exhaustion of the resources, this led to the depletion of the resources. Second is accumulation of resources in the few hands. See what happened, that you might have seen in the society that there are two types of people. Some are rich people, some are poor people. So the people, those who are rich, no, these are the people who have accumulated the resources in their hand. Okay. And these hands, okay, the one which is accumulating the resources, these are the rich hands, and those who could not accumulate the resources are the poor people. So this accumulation of resources uh, divided the society into two segments. Okay. Having and having not, rich and poor, we can say simply. Third is this indiscriminate use of resources led to some global ecological crisis. What type of global ecological crisis? Like global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, okay, land degradation. So these all are the problems, and these all are the problems raised only because of the indiscriminate use of the resources, right? So come to the next topic. Next is sustainable development. My dear friend, this is very important. You just keep concentrating. Sustainable economic development, what does it mean? It has two components. The first component is that the development should take place without damaging the environment. Okay, see, development is very important for the society, but we should do the development in such a way that it should not damage the environment. If it damages the environment, then it is not a sustainable development and it is not a good development as well. Second is, development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generation. If we are doing the development in such a way that we are exhausting our resources and we are not trying to save it for the next generation, future generation, then it is not a sustainable development. In the sustainable development, we should take care of the needs of the future generation. Okay, so this sustainable development has two components. The first one was that we should do the development in such a way that it should not damage the environment, and second is we should always take care of the needs of the future generations. So if we do like the development like this, then we can say that we are doing the sustainable development. Next, to discuss the sustainable development on a larger level, on the global level, one meeting was conducted in 1992. It was a summit, okay, and it was conducted in Rio de Janeiro, which is a city in Brazil. So in 1992, June 1992, more than 100 countries met at the Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and this was the first International Earth Summit. Very important for 1 mark question in the board exam. Just concentrate over here. First International Earth Summit, where it was convened in the Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. In which year it was convened? It was convened in 1992. So these two facts you have to keep in mind. Second is, why it was convened? It was convened for addressing the urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development at global level. Okay, so this meeting had the two purpose: to discuss the environmental protection issue, and second is socio-economic development. Then the people, those who were assembled in this meeting, the summit of 1992, they signed on a paper which is called the Declaration on Global Climatic Change and Biological Diversity. Now you see, in the Rio Earth Summit, the most important achievement, the biggest achievement of this Rio Earth Summit was Agenda 21. We adopted Agenda 21. What was Agenda 21? Agenda 21 was a target. Okay, it was a target set by all the countries to achieve in the 21st century. As it was supposed to be achieved in the 21st century, that's why it is called Agenda 21. Right. Next, we will discuss what is Agenda 21. So I told you that it was signed in 1992 in Rio Earth Summit in Brazil. Its aims was to achieve the global sustainable development. I told you earlier, right, that Agenda 21 or Rio Earth Summit, we discuss about the sustainable development. Now see, it has the agenda to combat environmental damage. Okay, environmental damage, poverty, disease through global cooperation on common interest, mutual needs and shared responsibility. Right, you see, this Agenda 21 decided that we will fight against the environmental damage, we will fight against the poverty, we will fight against the disease which spread through the global cooperation, means we will fight against the disease through which means through global cooperation. You just take an example. The time when I am making this video, the whole world is suffering from coronavirus, right? This is epidemic. Okay, so the whole world is cooperating with each other. Suppose if in future, if India makes the vaccine, okay, if India makes the vaccine, so India cannot say that only I will use this vaccine, I will not give it to anyone. India will have to give it to other countries also. Or if other country invents the vaccine for the coronavirus, they have to give it to other countries also. So this is the mutual cooperation, mutual interest. Okay, and like that we can combat with all the problems of the world, and this was the purpose of the Agenda 21. One very important objective of this Agenda 21 was that every local government, every country will set their own Agenda 21. See, what is the target of America cannot be the target of an African country. Okay, and what is the target? The thing which is which in the list of the target of the European countries cannot be a target for the Asian country. So all the countries were expected to set their own Agenda 21, means their own goals to achieve in the 21st century. So there should be a local Agenda 21 for every government. So this was, my friend, Agenda 21. Next is resource planning. Why we need to do resource planning? Okay, So what is planning? Planning is just a strategy for what? For judicious use of resources. I told you earlier that people started using the resources in such a way that it was like the free gift of the nature. But it is not so, my friend. It is not a free gift of the nature. That's why we should make a planning to use it. Okay, because if we will not use the resources in a planned way, we may exhaust it in a few years itself. Okay, it will be get plenished in few years. So that's why we need to do the resource planning. See, one more important thing is that there is a diversity in available of resources. Mean there are regions which are rich in certain types of resources, but they are deficient in some other resources. You just take an example like Jharkhand of India, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh. These states are very rich in minerals and coal deposits, but they are not. They don't have very good infrastructure development. Okay, some other states which are there in North India or South India, some other states which does not have the coal deposits or mineral deposits, but they might be very good in the infrastructure development. Like Rajasthan, you see, Rajasthan is well endowed with the solar and wind energy. Okay, solar energy, it has the potential to generate solar energy and wind energy in enormous way. But this state is lacking in water resources. But Arunachal Pradesh, you see, Arunachal Pradesh has abundance of water, but no infrastructure development. So you see, all the regions of the country, all the states of the country are having some good resources, but they are lacking in some other resources, right? So that's why we need to make the plan so that every state gets some resources. Okay, so that's why we do the resource planning, right? Now we will see how do we do resource planning in our country, in India. Okay, so see, resource planning is just a very complex way. Okay, it's not a very easy way, it's a complex way. It has three stages. The first one is identification and inventory of resources. What we do, suppose if we find out that there are some resources, means newly found resources in your area. Okay, so what government will do? First it will involve the surveying. It will do survey, means which type of resource is there. It will do mapping, in which area it is located, what is the quality of the resource, what is the quantity of resource. So this all will be estimated. Okay, so this is called identification and inventory of resources. Second thing, we will involve a planning for the development of that particular resources, and that planning, in that this stage we will need some technology, we will need some skill, institution setup. Okay, so in the first stage what we did, we found that there are some resources, so we did the mapping, we did the surveying, we surveyed the quantity, quality, everything. In the second stage we will plan something for the resource development, for that development of that particular resource. And in the third stage we will match the development plan of that particular resource with the development plan of the country. Understand it by this. Suppose I told you, that you just take an example. Suppose if you are living in Tamil Nadu, right? If you are living in Tamil Nadu and someday government found that there is a big gold reserve in your state. Okay, so first thing we will identify, okay, it is gold. Then we will do the survey, how much, mapping, okay, in which area, quantity, what is the quantity, how much it is there, what is the quality of that gold. Okay, so this is the first stage. In the second stage what will we do, we will use some technology, skills and institution to develop this resource. Okay, to extract this resource. Third, we will make a plan for the development of this resource, and we will match that development plan with the development plan of the nation. Means if suppose if the country wants to achieve 8% GDP. Okay, so how does this gold deposit can help to achieve that 8% GDP? So this is a matching of the plan. Okay, matching of the plan of this local area and matching of the plan of the national development goals, right? Come to the next. See how India has done this all resource planning. Since the first 5-year plan, you may be knowing that earlier we had the 5-year plans. Okay, we were making the plans for the 5 years and next 5 year and then next 5 year. Okay, so we were making some 5 years plan. Now it has been replaced by what? By Niti Aayog. I hope you know about this Niti Aayog. Okay, in 2014 government of India changed the 5-year plan to the Niti Aayog. Okay, so since the independence itself we are making the resource planning with the help of 5-year plan, and now we are doing so with the help of Niti Aayog. Second is, see, if only resources are available, okay, just availability of resources cannot ensure that we will develop. I give you one example, no, that the gold reserve is found in your state. You just imagine that gold reserves are found in your state, but there is no technology, there is no human being, no human resource, no human mind to extract that gold. Can we say that that gold deposit is a resource for us? No. Just having the natural resources does not mean that you will start developing. You should need some good technology, you should need some institutions. Okay, so these all things are needed, though then only you can extract the resources in a better way and you can use it for the development. See, many countries were earlier colony of some other countries. Like India was the colony of britishers ruled here for almost 300 years or more than that. Okay, why did they come to our country? They came to our country just to use, or we can say just to exploit the resources which are found in our country. Okay, and how they were able to do so? They had the better level of technological development, and with the help of their technology they started exploiting the resources of our country, and then they started controlling all over the world, right? So you say Britain had the better quality. This was the country which started the industrialization first in the whole world. Okay, and it means that country had the machines, that country had the technology to exploit the resources of the world, and that's why it started exploiting the resources of the world and it started controlling the world economy, right? So this is the thing. It means just having the resources is not a condition for the development. We need some technology, we need some quality of human resource, and we need some historical experiences of the people as well, right? Next, conservation of resources. Why do we need to do the conservation? It is needed for the developmental activity. If you want to do any type of development activity, you are needed to conserve the resources. See, irrational consumption, okay, means consumption of the resources, like it is the gift of the nature, I told you. Okay, overutilization of the resources. This all led to the socio-economic and environmental problems, right? Here is a very famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi: "The world has enough for everyone's need, for not for anybody's greed." Right? Means we can satisfy the need of everyone, but we cannot satisfy the greed of a single person. Okay, this is very famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi. So Gandhi says that greedy and selfish nature of the people and exploitative nature of the modern technology. These two things, again you see, greedy and selfish nature of the people and exploitative nature of modern technology. Gandhi says that the modern technology which are developed throughout the year, which have been developed throughout the year, these all have the exploitative nature. Means it can exploit the resources on a large scale within few times, less time. Okay, so these two are the root causes for the resource depletion, finishing of the resources at the global level. That's why he was against the mass production and he was in the favor of production by the masses. What is the difference between these two? Mass production means production of the things on a very large scale. You might have seen in the factories that within few minutes many things are made in a factory. Okay, so he was against it. He was in the favor of production by masses. Means people, mass means here people should do the production for themselves instead of producing the goods on a very large scale in the factories. Okay, so this was the idea of Mahatma Gandhi. You should remember this quote always. This is very important for the exam purpose as well as for your knowledge also, that Gandhiji has says that the world has enough for everybody's need, but not for anybody's greed, right? Next you will learn some facts very important for the 1 mark question in the board exam. Club of Rome, international level. This Club of Rome advocated the resource conservation for the first time in a systematic way in 1968. If the question is asked that which institution or which club advocated for the resource conservation for the first time, so answer will be Club of Rome. In which year? 1968. In 1974, one person whose name was Schumacher, okay, he wrote a book, Small is Beautiful, and in this book he discussed about the Gandhian philosophy about the resource conservation. Third is Brundtland Commission report. Very important, my friends. Brundtland Commission report 1987. This Brundtland Commission report, it introduced the concept of sustainable development. In which year? 1987. And this idea was published in a book titled Our Common Future. This one, Our Common Future, Brundtland Commission and Sustainable Development. You can read it here. Next, some significant contribution after that was made in Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992. This we have discussed in a elaborate way. Next is land resources. See, if you divide the India's land into different relief, we will have three types of relief. What are the three? First is plain, second is mountain, and third is plateau. And all these three types of land resources have their own quality. Okay, you see plain, almost 43% area of India is plain area, and how does it help to for the development? It provides facility for the agriculture and industry. You know that almost all the good agriculture area are established in the plain area because it is very easy to do the agriculture in the plain area. Okay, and it is very easy to establish the industries as well in the plain area. So this is the significance of this plain area. Second is the mountain. Almost 30% area of our country is mountain, covered with the mountain. And how does it help? What is the significance? It is the source of water for the perennial rivers. Okay, you know the perennial rivers, you might have studied in the class 9th, like Ganga river, Brahmaputra river, Indus river. These all are the perennial rivers, means the water flows throughout the year in these rivers. Okay, and why does it flow? Because it gets the water from the mountain glaciers. Okay, then mountains provide facilities for the tourism, for the ecological aspect also. Okay, so this is the significance of mountains. Third is the plateau. Almost 27% area of our country is plateau region. Okay, and what is the significance of the plateau? It is the rich reserve of minerals. You see all the minerals, all the coal deposits and deposits, these all are found in the plateau regions. Okay, so minerals, fossil fuels, forests, these all are found in the plateau region. So this is the significant, these are the significance of all the three types of land resources. Okay, next is the land utilization. How and in which way we utilize the land? So we can utilize the land for the forest purpose. Okay, you may see that in some areas forests are there. Okay, second is land but not available for cultivation. Why it is not available for the cultivation? Because it may be a barren land or wasteland. Okay, barren land means where we cannot grow the crops, so we said barren land. Okay, or wasteland. Second is if the land is put under some non agricultural activities. Non agricultural activities means, suppose building is there, roads are there, factories are there. Okay, so if already roads are there or factories are there, how can we do the agriculture in that particular area? We cannot do, right? So that is the land but not available for cultivation. Third is other uncultivated land, excluding fallow land. What is the fallow land? We will discuss in the next slide. So here we will exclude the fallow land. So other uncultivated land, some lands are there which are not available for cultivation. Okay, and buildings is not there, roads are not there, factories are not there. Then why we are not using for the cultivation? See, there may be a permanent pastures or grazing land. Okay, means animals are grazing in that area. Okay, so that is also not available for the cultivation. Second, it may be under some miscellaneous tree crops like mango trees, neem tree, eucalyptus, sesame, these all many trees are there. Okay, so it may be under these miscellaneous trees. So then also it will not be available for the cultivation. Third, it may be cultivable wasteland. Okay, what are the cultivable wasteland? Means any land which is uncultivated for more than 5 years. How much? More than 5 years. Then it will be called cultivable wasteland. Right. Next is fallow land. Fallow land, there are two types of fallow land: current fallow land and other than current fallow land. Current fallow land means any agricultural area which is left without cultivation for less than 1 year. Okay, if we are not doing the cultivation in an agricultural area for less than 1 year, okay, few months or maximum 1 year, it will be called current fallow land. And if we have not done cultivation for more than 1 year but less than 5 years, then it will be called other than current fallow, right? And if it is not cultivated for more than 5 years, then it will be called cultivable wasteland. Is it clear? Less than 1 year means current fallow land. Less than 1 year means current fallow land. More than 1 year but less than 5 years, other than current fallow land. More than 5 years, cultivable wasteland. Clear? Next is net zone area. What is net zone area? Net zone area means in an area where we grow the crop only once in a year. Is it clear? If we grow crops only one time in a year in an area, that area will be called net zone area. Okay, and there are some areas where we grow the crops for more than one time, 2 times, 3 times. Okay, so if we add the areas where we are growing the crop for more than one time and the area plus the area where we are growing the crops for only one time. If we add these two area, we will get gross cropped area. Is it clear? So come to the next, land use pattern in India. So there are two factors which determine the land use pattern, means for what purposes we are going to use the land. The first is physical factor, second is human factor. In the physical factors, the factors are topography, climate, soil types. Okay, topography means whether it is a mountain area or plateau area or plain area. If it is plain area, most probably we will do the agriculture or we can establish the industries. Climate, what type of climate is there? Harsh climate means very extreme climate, or very cold or very hot, or it is moderate climate. Soil type, what type of soil is there? Means it is a black soil or alluvial soil or red and yellow soil. So soil is also a determinant of deciding that for what purposes we are going to use that particular area. Okay. Second is human factor, means how much population do we have. Suppose if in 1 kilometer of area there are 10,000 people, so is it possible to make a factory in that area or a stadium in that area? No, it is not possible, because first we have to ensure that people have enough place to live. Okay, so population density is also very important. Second is technological capabilities, means how much technology do we have. What is the culture of that area, tradition of that area. These all factors decide that for what purposes we are going to use that land, right? So what is the total geographical area? This is a fact which can be asked in the 1 marks question. 3.28 million square kilometer area. 3.28 million square kilometer area. This is the total geographical area of India. One very important fact, my friend, National Forest Policy, which came in 1952, this National Forest Policy says that at least 1/3 of total area, means how much? 33%. 33% area, 33% area of total area of the country should be under the forest cover. Okay, it should be under the forest cover, but it is not. In India, we have approximately 21 to 22% of area under the forest cover. So this one you remember. How much we should have the forest cover area? 33%. And how much do we have? 21 to 22%, right? Next is causes of land degradation. Very important. What are the causes of land degradation? First is deforestation, means cutting the tree. When we cut the tree on the large scale, it is called deforestation. And how does it causes the land degradation? What happens, see my friends, when we cut down the trees, no, then what happens that actually tree has a specific purpose for the land conservation. What happens, this root of the trees holds the soil and it does not allow it to erode very easily. So this is deforestation which causes the land degradation. This is the first causes. Second is mining sites are abandoned after excavation. What happens that there are many mining sites where we do the mining, like coal mining or iron mining. Okay, so after the mining we leave the area as it is. We do not fill it with the sand as it should be. Okay, so if we do not fill that area after the excavation with the sand, then it will be a land degraded area. Okay, degraded area. Third, we see some land degradation problem in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. These are the states where we find some good natural resources, good minerals. Okay, so in this area people do the mining, and for the mining purposes they do the deforestation. So deforestation due to the mining in which state? Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. This is also a cause of land degradation. Next is Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. These are all the areas where people rear the animals. So they do overgrazing. These all the animals do overgrazing. And what happens when these animals do overgrazing? Okay, so the grass over the top layer will be exhausted. Okay, what does this grass do? Grass also do the same thing which is done by the plants. Grass also holds the soil, top soil, with the help of its roots. Okay, so the top soil cannot be eroded very easily by water or air, wind. Okay, so this overgrazing causes to the land degradation, means if animals will do overgrazing, then the top soil will be eroded very easily because there will be nothing to hold the soil. Okay, next is in the state of Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh. If you can correlate these three areas, Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh, these are the areas where this green revolution was very successful. Okay, and because of that people started doing irrigation on a very large, means large extent. Okay, so this irrigation, okay, on the large extent led to the increase of salinity and alkalinity in the soil through the capillary action. If you want to know more about the capillary action, you can ask your science teacher. What is capillary action? I am not going to discuss this here more. So capillary action, through the capillary action, the salinity increases in the soil, right? So this irrigation, over irrigation, is also responsible for the land degradation. Now we will see what are the land conservation measures, means how can we conserve the land. First is afforestation. This is the opposite of deforestation. If cutting the tree can cause the land degradation, planting the tree can conserve the land, right? Next is planting of shelter belts. What is the planting of shelter belts? I will discuss. Wait. See, planting of shelter belts. This is the example of planting of shelter belts. There is one field, agricultural land, okay, and just to ensure that this topsoil does not get eroded by the wind or water, especially by wind, we have planted some tree on the boundary, on the border of this agricultural land. What happens when the wind will blow from this side? These trees will not allow the wind to come in the very speed. Okay, so what this tree will do? It will obstruct the speed of the wind, and in this way we can save the soil of this agricultural land. So this is called shelter belt. This planting the tree on the boundary is called shelter belt. Third is control on overgrazing. I told you how the overgrazing causes the land degradation, so we can control the overgrazing. Next is stabilization of sand dunes by growing thorny bushes. I hope you have heard a term desertification. Desertification means when the area of the desert starts increasing, means the area where we are doing the agriculture at present, if it gets converted into a desert in future, it is called, this process is called desertification. How does it happen? What happens? The sand of an area, of a desert area, start blowing and it covers the top soil of a agricultural land. Okay, and then that area will also be not very useful for the agriculture purpose. So this is called desertification. So how can we stop it? We can grow some grasses in the desert area, right? And when we will grow the these grasses in the desert area, when the wind will blow, this sand will not be very easily transported to the agriculture, means fertile area. So this is called the stabilizing of sand dunes, okay, by growing the thorny bushes. Next is proper management of wasteland. We can manage the wasteland, and through that we can conserve the land. Next is control on the mining activities. I told you, for the mining purpose we do the deforestation. Okay, so this we can control. Proper discharge of and disposal of the industrial effluent and waste water after the treatment. Okay, we should not allow the waste of the industries to enter directly into the river. We should first clean it, and only the fresh water, okay, or clean water should be allowed to enter in the dispose in the river. Okay, so these all are the way through which we can conserve the land. I hope you all understood this. In the last, I have posed some questions which have been asked in the previous last 10 years, okay, board exams. So these all are the 1 marks question. You can read this all the question, you can take the screenshot, and then you try to answer this question. This will be very helpful for the preparation of board exam, my friends. So these all are the 1 mark question. From here, these all are the 3 or 5 marks questions. You can read all these questions. Okay, so thank you. I hope you understood this lecture very well, and if you have any doubt, please ask in the comment box. Okay, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it and share with your friends. Thank you.